All right, you ready, Randall?
I'm ready.
All right, well, welcome to all the Randall you can handle.
Is that what this is?
That's what
You
this
know,
is. That's
listen, I have to live with Randall every day. I'm probably getting close to being overdosing on all the Randall you can handle, but I'm
yes,
working
yes.
on it.
Yeah, I'm sure Julie gets all the Randall she can handle, and
Yeah.
everybody else. But there's a whole community out there that can't get enough of you. So
Oh,
so
God. Okay. Well, in that case, yeah.
yep, yep. So now
Well,
this group, it's been going for a few years now. This we kind of originated as a alternative to another
mm,
Randall site that was more focused on sacred geometry, and things kind of went south over there. And one of the founders of this group decided it was a good idea to kind of separate everything from that other group and start over.
thank you. Yes.
And we've grown now to just around 5,000 people. And to be honest with you, Randall, there would probably be around, I would say, over 20,000 people in this group if we weren't so strict with our membership guidelines. We the things that were going on over there were just getting kind of out of hand. And so
Yeah.
we've been really strict on who we let in and how they maintain the site, and it really has been running itself. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I do check in. And the more I check, each time I check in, I'm like, I got to start engaging and connecting here and providing some content and some comments and all of that. And so this like Mike Robertson just said to us, who's
Mhm.
hosting this for us, this
Right.
kind of has a dual function to sort of introduce the idea that now that I've got this studio, I've gotten pretty proficient at producing content in the last year.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of fun, here in the studio and using these technologies, all the new technologies I've been learning, like StreamYard. Well, Zoom I actually started learning years ago, but
Right.
the new ones are the StreamYard that we're using here now. Riverside are the two main ones. But so now that I'm feeling comfortable with that, I'm like, hey, this is not a big deal. I can
Yeah.
sit down here and we can create content and
Yeah. As we found, though, the Facebook Live isn't quite as user friendly as we had hoped. I think we both. I know for myself, like I'm strictly a cell phone Facebook user. I rarely ever use my
same here.
computer. Yeah.
Exactly. Cell phone. That's like almost exclusively my
Yeah.
usage of Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
once I think, like you said, with your studio going, I think we'll be able to figure out this live stream thing. And yeah, if we can jump on, once a month or something and answer some questions, I think that'd be
yeah,
great. I think that'd be a really good use of the platform and the use of the group itself. And I think everybody would appreciate it.
yeah, I'd love to do that. And
Yeah.
so the other function here would be, just to talk about. This is the first sacred geometry retreat now. So it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Well, this is a retreat. It's the first sacred geometry workshop, like weekend
Right.
long workshop in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was introduced to you back in like 2015, and I was really uh, I focus a lot on the geology side of all the
Mm-hmm.
Randall you can handle. I've always been a big geology guy,
Yeah, yeah.
and one of the things that I've always said is that the story of our past is written in the landscapes, and what actually drew my attention to you was your explanation of isostatic rebound and the
Mm-hmm.
possibility of the ice age allowing a large landmass in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And I
Uh-huh.
actually happened to have been I was working on a master's degree at the time, taking a master's level geology class, and it was the first time I had ever heard isostatic rebound mentioned out of all of my schooling up until that point. And then here is Randall on Joe Rogan talking about isostatic rebound and the possibility of Atlantis being a real thing, and that really grabbed my attention. Now, the other side of what you do is the sacred geometry stuff, right? And that's something that I've never really grabbed a hold of, but I kind of feel like sacred geometry is the language that the story is written in. And
You got it. I mean, that's
yeah,
it pretty much. Yeah, you got it, Chris. I mean, yeah, it's it's sort of a universal language because, mathematics, geometry, the relationship of a circumference of a circle to its diameter is consistent. Doesn't matter what nation, what ethnicity, what religion, what philosophy, what beliefs, what gender, none of that matters. The relationship of the diagonal of a square to its side is invariant, and it's the same. So anybody using a little bit of logic and a little bit of reasoning power, for example, could draw a circle and figure out the relationship between the circle itself and its diameter. Regardless, it just requires some rather straightforward logical brain work to figure that out, because you can come up with, you might not get it to 3.14159, et cetera, but you could get it to 3.14145,
Right.
to where the point is you understand it enough that you can actually use it.
Right.
I've been a builder. That was my day job for 40 years, has been a builder. So
Right.
that's kind of what led me ultimately into the study of geometry, because I realized that all of these ancient structures, they're very symbolical. They all encode a very precise mathematics and geometry. Mm-hmm. And the more I studied into it, the more I realized that the geometry across the spectrum of ages and geographical range was a consistent template. In other words, we could go up into the Ohio River Valley and its tributaries, and we can study the great monumental earthworks that were created up there by the whoever they were. We're not sure who they were.
Right.
We presume the predecessors of the Native American tribes that were living in those valleys when the Europeans arrived. However, the story they told the Europeans was that, this was the people that was before us.
Yeah, they were here before us, right?
They were here before us. But now you look at that, then you go over to megalithic Europe, go to the British Isles, and you've got megalithic stone structures over there. You've got, the work of Alexander Thom, who, after just meticulous research over years, he was a surveyor, amongst other things, and an engineer. He was a Scottish engineer. He surveyed over 500 megalithic structures throughout the British Isles and did this exhaustive analysis and came up with what he believed was that they were using, he believed he discovered, and he probably did discover, the unit of measure that they used. He called it the megalithic yard, and it's roughly equal to 2.72 of our modern feet, right? Okay, so, but the thing is that you then go to like Roman times or Greek times, and you've got temples there that don't look anything like megalithic structures of Northern Europe. They don't look anything like the monumental earthworks of North America. They don't look anything like the pyramidal structures in Central America, the step pyramids. They don't look anything like the great temple complexes in Indochina, like in Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when you begin to analyze the geometry, you begin to realize, well, it sure does look like they're all working from the same geometric template. Different materials, different environments, etc. But if you look at the geometry underlying these things, you realize over and over again, they're using the same geometric forms.
Right.
Well, then on top of that, the other thing that we started, I think it was Norman Lockyer in the early 20th century who first realized that some of the megalithic structures, I think specifically Stonehenge, was oriented to the midsummer sunrise, right? Well, once that was sort of like the icebreaker, oriented to the midsummer sunrise. Well, there's an axis there, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got two big stones with an aperture between them. The sun rises in the northeast on the morning of summer solstice, and that first ray of light shines over a stone that's standing outside the monument called the heel stone. For a moment, the sun is poised on top of that. It shines a ray down the axis of the monument through the aperture between the two sarsen stone uprights and illuminates a stone that is now fallen but was standing up, that was called the altar stone, right? Putting that together goes, okay, so it was like they built this structure And the whole thing seems to have been designed around this particular alignment. Well, then you could go to Fort Ancient in North America or Casa Rinconada out in Chaco Canyon, and you'll find that they're oriented.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Chaco Canyon. Yeah.
Yeah. Oriented. So, okay, so you got, well, the Druids or whoever it was performing rituals there, sun worshiping rituals, right?
Right.
Not that there was anything scientific about it. There was just whatever it was, a religion. They're performing, barbarian sun worshiping rituals. Well, how curious that the same morning on the other side of the world in New Mexico, they're apparently worshiping that same event. They've created a circular structure with an aperture. The sun's rays shine through there, illuminate something that was on the opposite wall. That there's a niche in the wall, and it obviously held some type of an effigy or something that would then be illuminated. So then you go up to Europe and you go to Chartres Cathedral, and not the morning of summer solstice, but at high noon on summer solstice, which is when the sun is the highest in the sky that it's going to reach throughout the course of the year, and only on that day, a ray of light shines between two of the buttresses on the exterior, hits a stained glass window precisely in a point where there's a clear chink of glass. The ray of sunlight passes through that clear chink of glass and illuminates a stone on the floor that has a metal tenon in it, and it illuminates that metal tenon for a moment at high noon on summer solstice. Now, these kinds of things can be repeated over and over and over again. Right. So what we can say in summary, it looks like there's a consistent geometric template and a consistent system of astronomical orientation. What is this? So how do we explain this? Do we just say, well, it's all just coincidental? It's something about the, subconscious of humans come up with the same forms? But, Chris, when we look at what the lifestyles or the lifeways would have been during those periods of time, we're looking at subsistence farmers, we're looking at foragers, we're looking at, migrating tribes, we're looking at people that we, in the conventional framework, wouldn't have had any reason to be that meticulous about geometry and astronomy.
Right.
If you want to know the seasons, all you need to do is put a pole in the ground, a stick, and draw a circle around it, and boom, you got it. You don't need to haul, 30, 20-ton stones in and set. You don't need any of that. Why would they do that? And why would monumental earthwork builders up in the Ohio and Mississippi valleys move hundreds of thousands of tons of earth ultimately to create this whole structure? Well, these are mysteries that I think, if we going by the response that Graham Hancock got to Ancient Apocalypse, these are questions we're not supposed to be asking.
Right.
So the geometry comes in because you just said it. You said it, Chris, that it is like, I think it's the language that transcended cultural differences that was used across time and space, and there was a system of this geometry. And the interesting thing about it, and this is to me where it ties back into the other aspects of what you and I are interested in, the geological. Because once you look at the geological record, I think the geological record is beginning to show more and more clear evidence of periodicity within the continuum of geological change. That periodicity has a tempo. And we can now look and we can sort of we can reconstruct that tempo. And what it looks like is that there's a rhythm, a frequency to some of the changes that occur here on this planet we inhabit. And those numbers and those frequencies relate directly to the numbers that we can extract from the study of geometry.
Right.
A beautiful example. Think of do you know what a dodecahedron is? Yeah, it's a 12-faced polyhedra, regular polyhedra with 12 pentagonal faces.
Right.
Okay, it's one of the 5. There can only be 5 I explained that in a geometry workshop why there can only be 5, but it's so they're pentagonal faces, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, and now you know what precession of the equinoxes is. Okay, so precession of the equinoxes is measured at 50 arc seconds per year. Slight more than 50 arc seconds per year, but for round numbers, 50 arc seconds per year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do this. If I hold up this calculator, 0, I'm going to put 360 degrees in a circle. So Earth's axis is doing this, right?
Right.
Generally in textbooks, rounded off to 26,000 years, right? Well, we're going to be a little more precise than that. So we go 360 degrees, and 360 degrees has 60 minutes of arc. So you've got this total, 21,600,
Right.
right? And there's 60 seconds. So we multiply that, and we get this right here, 1,296,000 seconds in a circle.
Yeah.
Now, that's an interesting number. Why? Because exactly that number is found in the ancient Vedas of India, describing one of the great time cycles called the Treta Yuga, which consists of 1,296,000 years. Okay. But now I said this is 50 seconds of arc per year. So this is the total number of seconds in the precessional circle. I'll divide that by 50, and you get this number right here.
Okay. Yeah.
25,920.
Right.
Now, if I divide that in 2, we're almost got the Younger Dryas.
Right. Right.
Divide that in 2, we've got this number, 6,480.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see interesting things. Nothing is monumental as the Younger Dryas, but it between, say, 6,200 and 6,500 was a major climate shift called the Neo-Glacial that ended the climatic optimum, so-called, right? We can go back 3 of those ago. So if I go times 3, we're at this number right here, 19,440, which was the depths of the late
peak. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if I add one more to that, another 6,480 years, we're back to this, which is almost 26,000 years.
Right.
And we find that that was within probably a few centuries of the beginning of what's called the late Wisconsin. And immediately after that, it looks like glaciers begin to expand enormously around the world.
Yes.
Okay, so if we go and we look at ancient structures, and I should probably pull up and do a share screen. What do you think?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. There we go.
There we go.
Now we're seeing it, the inner sanctum of sacred geometry.
Okay.
Okay, so we call this the hidden patterns of creation, and I start out with this. The King's Chamber and the Great Pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that interesting from a geometric standpoint? Because it's a double square. And why is a double square interesting? Because from a geometric standpoint, well, 10 cubits by 20 cubits, it gives you this geometry right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this geometry is the basis for this, the golden section. Expressed mathematically as this, the asymmetric division of a line, such that the small section is to the large section as the large is to the total line length.
Right, okay.
It's also the limit of the Fibonacci sequence. We won't get into this because this is not an in-depth, but this is essentially the idea right here. If you look at these numbers, 1, square root of 5, and 2, well, turns out that the value, the infinite value of the golden section division of a line is defined as 1 plus the square root of 5 divided by 2. So here in this diagram, I'm showing here how you use simple geometry to get basically the fundamental geometric ratio of life.
Okay.
So here you've got square root of 5 with this circle drawn on that vertex right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have the same value as the short side, which we've established as 1. and this is 2. It just doesn't matter what they are as long as the base is double the height, right? But in simple, 1 is to 2 the square root of 5. So this is square root of 5 plus 1.
Right.
Right. And then we take this length here, which is the square root of 5 minus 1. We go down here, we send an arc down to the baseline, and where it hits that point right there, that's the magic point.
Uh-huh.
And all kinds of things flow from that.
Right.
Right? So I was going to suggest from this, you can see this increment of growth here. 8B is to BC, as BC is to CD, as CD is to DE, and they're all, the expansion here is the golden section.
Right.
So from this now, Chris, I'm going to propose that the group, all the Randall that you can handle, we have a secret hand signal that we use to recognize each other.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking we just do this. That would be so.
That's where I thought you were going with it. So
I knew that you knew where I was going with it. So that's why
that'll be the secret hand signal.
So I'm glad you found that funny, because there were people I've done this joke before to people who didn't think it was funny.
Okay.
But okay, so now look here. Here we got a square, and with an inscribed circle, and I've appended a small square here. Now you can see that in here I've got lots of options for double squares, right?
Right.
Well, what I'm going to do is I bumped one right up here. This is double square. So it should be obvious that if I throw in this diagonal, I've got that relationship, the 1, 2, square root of 5 relationship, right? So let's see if I can get, okay, there we are. So this is actually an exercise that I walk people through in a sacred geometry workshop, right? So we put that in, and then we just project 2 lines. We're using a compass, right? We're using one of these. If you can see, this is a custom drawing compass that I make. My brother makes them, or our team makes them, whoever. So we're using that and a straight ruler to create these. So now we project a line. We project 2 lines up. You can see that they're each 1 unit. That becomes a square. Then we'll introduce another circle up here. Then I'm going to put this in. So what we have here now is radius of the original circle 1. This line is 2. That's the square root of 5. And this is the square root of 5 plus 1. Now, I just divide that by 2, and I've got the golden section. So in the next step, and there's the formula right there.
Right.
So I go to, and there, that defines the midpoint, which is easy to find in any line using geometry. It's very easy to find the midpoint. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply transfer that length using this as a center down here. I'll transfer over to this vertical axis there, like this.
Okay.
All right. Then I will perform a reciprocal act, but before I do that, I'm using this little increment here as a radius.
Right.
So I've drawn a circle. I've got this angle. And now I create the symmetrical version of this. And what I've done is I've precisely created the slope to base of the Great Pyramid.
Right.
Khufu's pyramid, 51.84 degrees. And you can do the math on this, and you see that it's within a whisker of being exactly that golden section, which is the ratio of the slope to half the base right there.
Right.
But then this is where it gets really interesting. Let's go back to that little circle there. And we'll go back to this circle. Now watch this, and you'll soon see this. And this relationship you're about to see is very, very precise. Let's enlarge it a little bit so we can see it better.
Okay. Yeah, that's where the geo of the geometry comes in, huh?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad you're able to follow this little exercise here.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
the other thing, see, is this tempo of global change. So if we look at, let's see if I have it here. Let's see if I'm gonna let's go to here. I'll exit this. Let's see if I've got. I don't have it in that one, but I'm going to show you from a cathedral. This is Chartres Cathedral. Let's see. I think I've got it right here. Hopefully, I won't have to. All right, we're still seeing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Now, Chartres Cathedral is a uh, basically it's a textbook of ancient science, and there's so much going on here. We, obviously for a short meeting, I can't
Yeah.
get into it too much, but I just want to show you a couple of things. When you approach a cathedral, if you think of the cathedral as a textbook or any book at all, when you open a book, the first thing you see typically is a foreword, or that introduction or the foreword kind of gives you a synopsis of here's what this book is about. Here's what you're going to learn. Here's what you're going to discover when you go in and you read this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cathedral's the same way. So you walk up to Chartres, and here's the entrance to the west facade. And you've got this figure up here of the seated Christ within a particular geometric figure. And
Mm-hmm.
that figure is called a vesica piscis, or the fish's bladder. And it is the first proposition of Euclidean geometry. The whole edifice of geometry begins with this figure right here, which is formed by two circles of equal diameter overlapped such that the circumference of one falls on the center of the other, if you got that.
Yeah.
They're surrounded by these four beasts right here, if you want to call them that. You've got a lion, you got a bull, you got an eagle, and you've got an angel. Those each represent the four fixed signs of the zodiac. So you've got the angel standing in for Aquarius, the eagle standing in for Scorpio, because Aquila the eagle rises with Scorpio and marks the same quadrant of the year with its rising. Taurus you've got here, and Leo over here. Those are what are called the four fixed signs of the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
And they're separated, but the cusps of those are each separated by 6,480 years, give or take. But for all practical purposes, you're way well in the ballpark to say 6,480 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and do this. If you think about your geometric figures, I think I have them right here. Actually, let's see. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go back to present mode, share screen. Here we go. Okay, so there we got it. So this is your dodecahedron, and each of the faces is a pentagon. 108 degrees separate each edge. There's 5 of those, so that's 540 per face. And if you add the 12 faces together, you see right here, you get 6,480.
Okay.
So there is the same number of degrees in that measures the dodecahedron as there are years that measure one season, as it's called, of the great year, which is your precessional cycle.
Okay.
And that's just the beginning. We could go that if you take that 25,920, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you divide that by 12, you get all the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 ages, right?
Yeah.
Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, right? We've been in 2,000 years in the age of Pisces. Now it's moving in about 200 to 300 years. The vernal equinox will be in the star field of Aquarius, right?
Right.
So if we go and look at, let's say, the cube, we see that it has 6 square faces of 90 degrees, and it adds to 2,160. I don't know if you remembered this, but how many miles measured the diameter of the moon? We just saw it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
2,100,
It was close. Yeah.
2,160.
Yeah.
And if you divide the precessional circle into 12 for each of the 12 signs of the zodiac, you're dividing your 25,920 by 12, and you get 2,160 years on average.
Yeah.
So what we have here, and what I could demonstrate, this is only two examples. I could give you many other examples where the numbers that measure geometric form also seem to be embedded within the cycles of time, the temporal cycles. This is one of the key takeaways from the idea of sacred geometry. And it strikes me that somehow somebody in the ancient world, maybe even in prehistory, had a very profound understanding of this. And they knew that there were numbers that were measuring time and space, both. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that I try to bring people to that awareness by showing, well, there are these, sacred structures all over the world, and when we look at them, we find the same relations, the same numbers over and over and over again, right? Mm-hmm. We find those numbers embedded in sacred writings. If we go into Vedas, the Vedas have these discussions of the great time cycles, the yugas and the kalpas and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, those numbers and those frequencies are all embedded in those time cycles that we inherit from some of the oldest writings known to man. Right. How interesting is that?
It's
very interesting, yes. So what I try to make people aware of is that there was this system, or I don't know how to explain it other than maybe it comes down to, how did these people know this? That's the question. They seem to have been well aware of this. They built their structures in such a way that the geometry was consistent across continents and across millennia, and the orientation to the sky, the astronomical realm, was consistent, again, around the world and over thousands of years. Does this suggest the existence, perhaps, of a system? Or is it all just coincidence that they were doing this? Or is this evidence of some kind of a system?
Or language.
Or language. That's a good way to put it. Or language, mm-hmm. Exactly. And that really, that's the question right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're getting, and see, what's not allowed right now, apparently, is to ask this question. We have to accept this as pre-written narrative of this very linear view of history.
Yeah.
But see, those of us who understand the geological component of all this, we know that, well, were events on the magnitude of the Younger Dryas to occur today, if events on the magnitude of the deglaciation and the gigantic mega floods and the extreme climate changes that were all concentrated within this very small epoch, were that to happen today, Chris, would archaeologists 10,000 years from now even be able to find evidence that we were here? And I think the answer is, with great difficulty, maybe, but it'd be tough. Mm-hmm. It would. And I think a lot of the archaeologists out there, they don't understand enough about geology, and specifically catastrophist geology. And I'm surprised at the number of geologists that I have met over the years who are really not that educated about catastrophist geology.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they spend a lot of time in their holes and they don't look up. So
that's right. So we're kind of in this interesting position now where geologists, though, have been discovering that there are many scars of impacts.
Yes.
Compared to what there used to be. And they're looking down, but it's simultaneously the astronomers are looking out and they're discovering that, this near-Earth space is a lot more densely populated than anybody had imagined.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Remember, what was it, YK 2024 that flew June 19th, I think it was?
I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, it was a close one.
Yeah, between 500 and 800 feet. Well, that's like, that's much, much more massive than Tunguska.
Yeah.
And if it's an asteroid, it's also much denser than Tunguska. So that I I use this computer program where you can plug in the parameters of density, velocity, angle of approach, density of target. So I put in a bunch of stuff for that YK, not Y. Yeah, I think it was YK 2024 or MK maybe. And this is what it came up with. If it impacted the ground, it would excavate a hole 2.5 miles wide and 1,500 feet deep.
Yeah.
It would produce a 3-mile wide fireball that would destroy everything, literally incinerate everything.
Yeah.
If it happened over a populated area, instantly, at least conservatively, 1 million people would be killed. So it would have been a major event. It would have been an event with global consequences easily.
Yeah.
So that scraped by a whisker.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was MK 2024.
Got it. Yeah.
And it was only it was on June 29th, which notice that date.
Yeah.
June 29th. Well, that's right, the peak of the Torrids. Yeah.
Torrids, yeah.
Yeah, I knew you would notice that. I knew you would pick up on that. I sure did. Well, it was only discovered on the 16th. So less than 2 weeks after its discovery, it just grazes by the Earth by a whisker.
Yeah.
And, that would have been a major global event. So I did the calculation. It's roughly 100 times more massive than the Tunguska event.
Yeah. Little bit more than some reindeer herders. That would have been a big one.
Yeah, equivalent to 500 to 600 1 megaton hydrogen bombs. Tunguska was about 15 megatons. Let's see. So that's more than the combined energy of the active nuclear arsenals right now.
We gotta keep our eyes open for sure. Hopefully our buddy with Space Force, I think he's back somewhere in there getting back to business. So
last I heard was Undersecretary of the Air Force.
Yeah.
So I hope that comes to pass.
That's right.
We're pulling for you, Matt. We're pulling for you, man.
Yep. Well, anyways, tell us about so this weekend you have a retreat going on up in Tennessee. And we just touched on the sacred geometry. So tell us what they can get.
The idea here is to introduce people to the language, as you called it, which is a very appropriate way to put it. Yeah, it's going to be hands-on. So we've prepared a supply kit for everybody who's going to participate in-house. I think there's 5 seats left in-house, but we're going to also live stream it. So it's going to be about very practically oriented. Like, how do you use sacred geometry if you're an architect or a builder or a craftsperson? You know, over the years that I've done these classes and workshops, I've had quilters, I've had furniture makers, I've had stained glass artisans, I've had gardeners, landscape architects, digital designers, graphic designers. So it'll be heavy on the practical, like how to use it.
Yeah.
But then we're going to incorporate some, of course, the deeper, like what I just showed you, a few examples of some of the extraordinary correlations that you get into. Like, how did the ancients use it? And how do we find it embedded in ancient structures? How do we find it embedded in living systems and growing in molecular geometry, in the astronomical, the architecture of the cosmos? We'll definitely be getting into some of those questions. But again, the emphasis is going to be on the practical and learning the basic geometric techniques.
Okay, and so how many spots are left for the in-person?
I think we said there was 5 as of
5. Okay, good. And how many total? Do you know?
54. We're cutting it off at 54.
This could be a big group. Yeah, big group of people. Good.
Yeah,
awesome.
And great people, awesome people.
So this is the actual, like, this is the stuff that participants would be doing with you at the time.
That's exactly what they'll be there doing. Just this. I'll be teaching them, taking them step by step through these drawings.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, if you can't get out, it's live streaming, and we've set up an Amazon bundle, so you can go on there and you can one click and you can order, and you'll get everything that the in-house students attendees will get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those that just can't make it in person, there is a live stream option, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the live stream option, now obviously if they get the live stream, they're not going to have access to the tools and things like that, but you guys made it pretty easy, right?
Yeah. So there's a link right here. Get all the supplies here in one click. So you click there and you go right straight to Amazon, and everything is already bundled. It'll
Awesome.
ship out within 2 days, I guess.
So they'll have access to the live stream and have all the supplies at home and can follow along. That's fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, and then of course they'll get to keep the live stream in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be able to go back and really learn this thoroughly. You need to go through it a couple of times.
Yeah.
You really do. And so they'll have that option so anybody who's wants to know more about it from the philosophical end, yes, from the metaphysical end and all of that, there'll be some of that. This will be an entryway into that. But the emphasis of this beginning workshop is how to use this as a tool, a design tool. If you're an architect, if you're an engineer, well, I don't know so much about an engineer, but anybody who designs things, any crafts person, I think we'll find a lot of usefulness out of what this is going to be. We're going to do a field trip to the All Saints Chapel at Sewanee that was designed by an architect who was inspired by the cathedrals of Chartres and Amiens.
Okay.
And it's a good example. It's about 25 minutes away from the Beersheba Assembly. We're going to field trip there on Sunday afternoon, and we're going to tour that, look at the symbolism and the geometry of that and so forth. Mm-hmm. We'll be having the 28th and 29th is the peak of the grand planetary alignment. So we've got all the visible planets. The 28th, right. The first night of Friday, we got the grand planetary alignment, including the crescent moon. It'll all be overhead, so people are bringing binoculars and things. We're gonna look at that. We will have like I said, it's going to include all the meals there. And mm-hmm. What else? We may have a surprise presentation, but I don't want to talk about that until I can make sure that it's a definite thing that can happen. What else? There's nearby, we're probably going to have at least one small geological excursion to a place called the Stone Door, which is very close to the assembly. Yeah. So we're going to try to include that. We're also going to do a drum session where we learn some ancient Egyptian and Persian trance rhythms.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that way, the idea is I can put everybody into a trance. And once I've done that, then I'll be able to control them. Because
I did have the opportunity to watch you on the drums last summer at the Cosmic Summit, and I was impressed. Oh. The whole show was great with $50 Dynasty, but you taking hold of the drums really kind of sold it. It was good.
Oh, good. Okay. I was very rusty. Now I've been going through some of my licks and practices to get loosened up for the weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I tell you, we had a Zoom meeting with most of the attendees last week, and
Yeah.
looks like, as always, just an awesome group of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you can get like-minded people in the same building, it's going to be a good time. So
it's going to be a good time. Yes.
Yep. All right.
So,
I hope you guys have a great time next weekend. I hope the people that get on, if they can't go, they have the opportunity to get the live stream and to participate with the sacred geometry. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to us getting together and doing some more live streams with the all the Randall You Can Handle group. We'll have to figure something out. We gotta do a couple practice sessions maybe, and figure out how to use that live stream, because I think that there's a lot of people there that have some good questions that they want to ask, and whether it be about the sacred geometry or the geology or any of that. So awesome. Well, it was great talking with you tonight, Randall.
Likewise, Chris. All right,
and we'll definitely have to do it again sometime real soon.
Hello, friends. I'm Randall Carlson. I'd like to extend an invitation to you to enter the magnificent realm of sacred geometry. I'll be hosting a Sacred Geometry weekend at Beersheba Springs Assembly on the beautiful Cumberland Plateau in Tennessee, this February 28th through March 3rd. This is going to be a hands-on workshop for beginning students and more advanced students who would like a refresher in the basic methods. During the weekend, we're going to cover the fundamentals of this ancient science of harmonious design, while the emphasis will be on the practical applications tailored to be useful as a tool for architects, designers, artists, builders, musicians, arts and crafts people, such as woodworkers, quilters, stained glass workers, furniture makers, and on, as well as people of a more philosophical orientation who might be looking for a deeper symbolical or even metaphysical meaning in the patterns and relations among the mystic forms and numbers underlying all creation. For those seekers of knowledge, there will be a generous serving of inspiring and thought-provoking information. Included in the weekend, we're going to be taking a field trip to the nearby All Saints Chapel. This is in Sewanee, Tennessee. All Saints Chapel is an extraordinarily beautiful neo-Gothic church whose design is inspired by the geometry and symbolism of the cathedrals of Chartres and Amiens in France. The goal of this workshop retreat will be to prepare students for the more advanced teachings that are going to follow. There's a reason why Pythagoras and Plato held geometry in such high esteem, and why the inscription over the entrance to Plato's academy cautioned, "Let none but geometers enter here." So, from a deeper perspective, what can we say about the advanced teaching and the ultimate meaning and significance of sacred geometry? First, sacred geometry provides the key to revealing the invisible archetypal patterns of creation, and it provides the template upon which the manifest universe is built, both in its inanimate and animate forms. Sacred geometry provides the key to understanding the great year, that is, the cosmic clock which reveals the cycles of planetary change and governs the unfolding of world events. It unlocks the deepest mysteries of cosmic destruction and renewal. And it provided the alphabet with which the master builders of old conceived and constructed their masterpieces of stone and clay and wood. And the master key to unlocking their concealed teachings. It unveils the cosmic blueprint for the building of the worlds and for the new order of the ages. Now, in-person seating is limited, but for all those who cannot attend in person, the event will be live streamed through my HowTube channel. If you purchase a ticket for the live stream, you'll be able to download a recorded copy, which you will then be able to keep and watch in perpetuity. The price of admission includes all the supplies you'll need to participate effectively, including this beautiful handcrafted hardwood drawing compass. So please join us and the growing community of knowledge seekers from around the world, either in-house or remotely, and prepare to embark upon a wondrous journey. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you there.